It's in the name.
This episode of Helping Healing Humor is brought to you by another show in the Ben and Travis universe, The Long Yes with Travis and Whitney. Most people see the stage, the sermons, the Sunday mornings, but they don't always see the quiet yeses, the hard yeses, the everyday yes that nobody applauds. On The Long Yes, Whitney and I have honest conversations about faith, family, ministry, and what it looks like to keep saying yes to God over the long haul. If you're a minister, a church volunteer, a ministry spouse, or just someone trying to lead your family well, this podcast is for you. Go to benandtravis.com, click the podcast button, and look for The Long Yes with Travis and Whitney, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and start saying yes for the long haul. Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast. I'm Travis Creasy, the pulpit minister at Dothan, Alabama, Westgate Church of Christ in Dothan, Alabama. That is all-pro counselor with Marcel Bible School, Highland Park Church of Christ, 3-chord counseling, and probably just now getting over being co-director of Camp Maywood. Have a big weekend. I think you said that you went bow fishing last night.
I did.
Kick off wedding week in your house. Your daughter Destin, who was on the show not too long ago, is getting married. And I don't know if do you want to go into that? Do I need to have a mental health moment for you?
You might need to counsel me a little bit. It probably was a bad idea to start the week off bow fishing, but maybe I needed to shoot at stuff for a little bit. But no, it's great. I mean, we're excited. I do think it's a great thing. It's what you raise them to do, but it's just really hard when it gets there, and realizing I'm old enough for that to be the case is also difficult. And so it's gonna be a good week. We did some stuff today, picking up an arbor to go behind us during the ceremony, behind you as you're gonna help out at the beginning of it. And then after I give her away, I'll take the reins and cry like a baby for most of the ceremony, I'm sure. And we'll get through it. It's going to have to be short and sweet, or we'll never get through it. So, and it's outside in July, but thankfully it's at the sunset. So maybe it will have cooled down a little bit, and we won't all die of heat exhaustion.
It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a party.
It is.
Uncle Trav's going to be there, Lord willing, the creeks don't rise. And then if you got, the rest of some of the other cousins, your brothers, any of those folks show up, it's bound to get sideways. So
it'll be crazy no matter what. So
we're going to have fun. Just warn Destin. I mean, we got plenty of videos, right? The firework video, it wasn't her on the Christmas thing tripping over.
One of them it was.
One of them was, okay.
Yeah, one of them was Stana, and she laughed at Stana. Then a day or two later, she tripped over one and just face planted, and it was beautiful.
So I mean, it could get wild. You never know. We might bust out a fun sing song in the middle of it. I'm just kidding. I know Kenya doesn't listen to this, but no.
Destin's going to start canceling.
She's the one. I'm more worried about Kenya putting the whoop on all of us than Destin. And I think Jay would just laugh. But anyways, with that in mind, we'll try to keep the father of the bride references to a minimum. But we're going to talk about 8 things that we wish that we would have known. And maybe somebody did tell us these things, but things that either they told us and we realized they were important, or we wish that they would have told us before we got married. And so we've got that on our mind. But Ben, I'll let you jump right in, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to think of things that might be helpful to those who are about to go down the journey. This is the season, I mean, like all summer long, you've got people who are traveling to go to wedding after wedding. I don't know that there's a season. It's like spring, summer, fall, seems like all the time.
Well, it's not on a football game Saturday. So,
but yeah, that's true. And they should never do that. Like that may be something we need to talk about too, the things you don't do for weddings. And that is, don't plan them outside in July. We messed that one up. And don't do it on a football weekend. But
I mean, and that make a great, wrap up question, but you got to have them sometime. And I'm a chief complainer about how hot it is outside, but I'd much rather it just be hot outside than me missing football. So,
I agree. I agree. So anyway, that's not one of the 8, but the first one just to consider, and you hear this a lot about the first year of marriage. The first year of marriage is so important. It's kind of like, those first years as a baby. We talk about how important that is for the growth of your kid. Hello, kitty cat coming on the screen. The first year of marriage is super important too, because you're learning each other, you're getting to know each other even more so. Of course, the intimacy part of it is more than what has been in the dating part. You're having to live with each other, which is it's just a different world. I had some experience in leaving home and being, paired up with someone in a dorm before I got married. And the person I was paired up with in the dorm prepared me for the annoyances of marriage. And I
yes,
won't say who that person was.
yes,
He might be also on the screen with
I'll
me.
vouch for that.
But there's certain things, and that's one thing. Destin has not, she's not left home. She's not gone to college. So it will definitely be an experience. But I do think that first year is super important in so many ways. Just establishing the way you communicate, establishing the things that you do, and that how life is going to be, and what events you go to, what events you kind of stop going to, all those different things. What are some, as far as that first one is concerned, what are your thoughts on it?
I thought we had a pretty neat setup. We were about an hour and a half from both of our
Mhm.
families, and so it was close enough to where we could go home on the weekend and get back, but it was also like far enough to where, if we had a disagreement, which I think that's down the line a little bit, you couldn't get away. It was a major undertaking if we were going to spend any time away from each other, so we couldn't run away from each other. We had to kind of deal with some of the stuff. But, I remember the first year as being really an awesome time. It was really an awesome time. And going back to your college thing, you and I both had college friends who, they went, and every weekend they went back home.
Mhm.
And that kind of made it difficult. And a lot of them, not all of them, but a good chunk of them didn't last. They just couldn't get over being away from home. And so I think certainly even more importantly in that first year of marriage, that's kind of a big deal, that even if you live around your parents, make the commitment that,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to work a lot of this stuff out and
And it is not
learn to
all
compromise.
it is not always the hardest year. People
No,
say that it's not always the hardest year. There are a lot of people. I think it's the hardest year in terms of just really trying to figure each other out.
like concrete things like housing and financial stuff that you can see.
Yeah.
And then as you get into maybe other years, and it depends right on the couple, there are the things that maybe aren't so on the surface that you get into.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And I think it's just, my family did things this way. Your family does things
yeah,
this
the
way.
holidays, I mean, the holidays is
Yeah.
a perfect example. And I remember we have that's an ongoing conversation, especially now that we're in Dothan. There are less of those trips, but which ones are important to this family versus that one. And it's kind of crazy. It's kind of worked out over the years that, each one does something different, or we can make the tour. But I think that leads right into number 2, Ben, about continuing, I would say maybe continuing the pursuit,
Yeah.
to keep dating, and learning about one another. That's hot and heavy there right out the gate, and you're dating. I want to know everything about you, and whether it's to make you like me more, or your likes, dislike, what's annoying, and that kind of thing. A lot of that comes out when you spend time together, not focused on the 100,000 other things. And it's one of those things, if you start early before the kids show up, it makes it a little easier to maintain continuing to date when they do.
Yeah. And speaking of dating, I might get in trouble for mentioning it, but I might have dropped off another daughter for a first
Dude.
informal date, to go to eat and then go like a good traditional marriage date almost is, you go out to eat and you go to Target or something like that.
Yeah.
It's basically what they did. And so just drop them off for that. And it's kind of fun to see the nerves,
Yeah.
what we experienced once upon a time, and to have that excitement about being around somebody. Um, and so I think for marriage, it's really important to do that too, to, keep the excitement of, hey, we're going to get to go spend a couple of hours together, eat out, go to a movie, do something different that we don't do every day, because we get into the mundane order of things and following kids around and whatever it is. So, whether it's your first year of marriage or it's your 25th year of marriage, keep dating, keep being a part of each other's lives, keep pursuing each other, because everybody wants to be pursued. And so I think that's a huge one. One of the things that kind of goes along with that first one too, I guess, in some ways, is your family of origin impacts your relationship. So there are things that your family did that are different than what her family or his family, whoever it is that you're marrying.
I don't mean they're right or wrong. It's just different.
No, no, and it's like you'll have some of those arguments. You'll also carry some of the baggage from that. So
Yeah.
there might be some pain, there might be some difficulties. Every person's family is very different,
If
and
you're the only child or you're the first, the second, the third, the middle, whatever, those all have different things that come along with them.
yeah, I was the youngest of three, and Kenya was the oldest of three. So there was a little bit of personality differences there in the way that we deal with things, and so you kind of have to work some of that out too. And you come from a family, you might come from a family where you had both parents. You might come from a family where you had both parents, but they were split. You might come from a family where you were just one parent in your life. And so those kinds of things impact the way you handle things, the way you've seen things, the way you think about marriage. So I see that a lot in couples where, they've just got very different mindsets. And it's kind of funny. I don't know if the right word's funny, but a lot of times we move away from what our family of origin did. It's
Yeah.
almost like we go, I don't want it like that, you
Yeah.
know. And so there's a lot of people, especially the negative parts, they start trying to come more to the center. They start trying to do some of the things differently in a better way. And so that's good. And so hopefully each generation can move in a positive direction.
Well, number next is learn to say I'm sorry and I forgive.
Yeah,
Um,
say it a
and
lot.
I would say even learning how to, I mean, obviously you want to be able to say it, but some people have different ways of showing it.
Yeah.
And so there's even that learning curve of,
Mhm.
and then there are people who may not match up with receiving that I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It may not land. And once again, going back to family of origin, you may not have said I'm sorry very often, but you probably found a way to show it. And now you've got this other person that didn't grow up in that house, and they may be like, that's the weirdest way in the world to show that you're sorry or that you're
Yeah.
forgiving me. So
Yeah. And maybe say it even in a bigger sense, and that is just learning conflict resolution,
yes.
and not that you try not to think or get sucked into, well, I can say I'm sorry and it all goes away. That's not necessarily the truth.
Yeah.
There's still going to be things to be worked out. But if you can learn to say I'm sorry, and you can learn to know that, hey, sometimes I'm wrong and sometimes they're right. And sometimes I just need to forgive too, because sometimes they recognize they're wrong and it hurts deeply that they've hurt you. And so they need to know that they've been forgiven. And we find that from our Christian perspective, I think, we understand that importance, that forgiveness sometimes is as much for the person forgiving as it is for the person receiving it. But those are just really important concepts for being able to move through the day, move through the week, move through the month, move through your lifetime together, is being able to say those things. And I guess kind of leads into number five. which is little things matter a
It's
lot.
like these work together or something.
It's like they do. Little things matter a lot. And so, the way that you show love, the way you show affection, if you've not read uh, the 5 love languages, I would very much recommend any couple that's getting married or recently married or been married for 20 years, if you haven't read it, to read it, because everybody expresses love in a different way. And so those little ways of expressing it, if it's a gift, if it's a word of affirmation, if it's act of service, if it's quality time, if it's physical touch, whatever it is that your person, your husband or your wife, whatever it is that speaks to them the most, that's the one you need to do to them. That's the one you need to practice giving them words of affirmation or giving them quality time, even if that's not yours. So the little things really add up and put money in the love bank, and so it makes a difference.
And if you're like me, I've told Whitney, and it works out perfectly. Like, hey, if I'm doing something annoying, just tell me, right? If I'm doing a little thing that maybe I've just once again grown up doing it this way, and that's something that does not line, let me know, because I'm not gonna pick up on hints. I'm just not that observant, So I'm just
I
waving,
feel like
giving
I
up
feel
on.
like that's one of those what do you call them, the filters that you can put on the movies,
Yeah,
and I feel like there would be a lot of time of the day with you that she would be going, hold up,
yeah. Stop
I'm
doing that.
that's annoying, stop doing
Yeah,
that. It's
stop doing
almost like it would just be filtering out everything.
Yeah,
Probably the same for me too. So
she's trained me well. There are times where I'm talking to the kids and I'm like, she hadn't got them trained yet, but she's got me. I'm a Whitney bot, I guess, to some degree. And then number 6, which keep intimacy alive. And I guess we won't go into too much detail on.
clean that up very nicely.
I do. I thought you cleaned that up pretty good. Um, there's an aspect of that goes back to the dating, the pursuing. Um, it can be spontaneous and it's great when it is. Uh, but don't let that be the determining factor.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's okay to schedule things too.
Yeah.
And if you got little ears listening, parents, I think it's important for us to bring up this point. So if you need to turn it down, but we're all adults here. But that part of a relationship is super important. That part of a relationship is God given. And I think, and I don't just think, I've seen it. I know that sometimes the negative way that we have spun sexuality in the church has very much um, hurt the way that people see it when they get married. And it's difficult because it's kind of maybe unintended. I don't know that we intentionally shame it, but it's kind of like we try to say you can't do that while you're dating. You can't be a part of that. That's only for marriage. But then we spin it in a very, dirty, nasty kind of way. And so people sort of see it in that way. And then when they get married, it's very hard for them to see it differently. It's hard. It's kind of like going back to that family of origin thing. If we have just really made that a negative thing. And so I think it's really super important for you to spend some time figuring out the intimacy part and understanding it is absolutely 100% a gift from God that he has given to us, a way to express that love, and hopefully a way to express that love with one person for your lifetime. That's the way
Yeah.
God intended it.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing.
And our enemy, the devil, will use one extreme or the other. And as much as it is a detriment prior to marriage, it can be just as much, if not more. I'm not the counselor, so don't hold me to that. Damaging on the other side of it, if it's not something that is a part of that life in your relationship with that person. And I mean, it may or not, I know there's no stat out there, but I would be willing to guess that it could solve a multitude of problems.
Well, it's one of those things where you're right. If it's not
Not always the answer.
but when it's the answer, it might be the answer, right?
It might be. Who knows? Have you tried it?
Well, and it goes back to the love languages. For some people, that's just not their strength. That's not the thing that kind of fills their tank. You
Yeah.
know, quality time does that. But if you've got one person in your relationship who's, is physical touch, and that never exists, that doesn't happen, then what you're going to have is a buildup of frustration, a buildup where you are, uh, kind of building up a wall, basically,
Yeah.
and you don't have the relationship you could have because there's contempt and there's feelings of resentment and those sorts of things because that's not there. But the same thing is true for the other things. If I'm not spending quality time, there's a buildup of resentment. There's a buildup of frustration. If I'm not ever giving gifts and yours is gifts, then there's probably going to be that too. So we have to keep in mind, this may not be the thing that I like, but the other person needs this occasionally.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just important for us to have those conversations as a married couple. What is it that speaks to you? What is it that is important to you?
And there's a lot of nuance. We're covering this list fast. A lot of nuances in your specific situation and what's going on. But generally speaking, that is correct. That I liken it to when people, Jesus talks about love your wives, and that involves telling them. And you might hear a man go, well, I just don't know how to say it. I'm not good at saying it. Well, that's not an excuse not to try and to practice and be better at it.
Well, and to revisit that thought from Ephesians 5 that I think we've talked
Yes.
about before, is it is not my responsibility to make my wife respect me,
Yeah.
and it's not her responsibility to make me love her and show affection.
Yeah.
And it's her responsibility to respect. It's my responsibility to show love and affection, according to Ephesians 5. And I think that bleeds over into all those love languages, or his needs, her needs. Is it's my responsibility to know her needs and to fulfill them. And it's her responsibility to know mine and to fulfill those. That's on us to do the part for the other person because they are a part of who we are.
All right, Benny Bob, number next. I don't know if I've ever called you Benny Bob before.
I don't know if you have either. I'm not.
There it is.
I like it.
Debt
number
is
7.
detrimental.
Yeah.
Debt is detrimental. I like what you did there. Good old preaching the same letter deal. So debt is detrimental.
Yeah, and it is. So many people. This is a big argument, and maybe we should have just said financial things cause problems.
Yeah.
So there's just if you can't figure that part out and you're struggling with that part, I've definitely been on that road at times, and I'm 45 and still struggle at times in those areas. And so we have to have a lot of conversation.
We both have pieces of paper from Freed, and you've got pieces of paper from other places. So we definitely acquainted with that aspect. So
it kind of starts off in a really tough place when that's the case. And so it can be a big deal breaker with families. One of the top things that people argue about, one of the top things that tear down relationships. And so one way or another, try to get on the same page, get some help with it. If you need to get some help with it, find ways that help it. You guys have just, been fantastic. I think Whitney has been fantastic in those areas. And so, y'all may have more to say about that than I do.
Well, I think as this is a list that we would like people to know before they got married, this is the biggie, figure out, maybe neither one of you are great at math or finances. And like I said, to Ben, it's worth the price of paying someone to help you do it. And it does save a world of hurt and a world of headache. There's a couple of things on here, Ben, that I'm sure that when you do marriage counseling, almost every one of those can check the list of these things have been difficult. And it may be even if you talk about it before marriage, it's a constant having to go back and look at it. And, that's once again, what are your goals? How many kids do you want to have? What's that look like? Those are all things to talk about. And all those things take money, and we're going to bring the finances into it. And then finally, Ben, you will argue and
You should.
You should.
Number 8, how many times I've had people come in my office and say, well, we've never really had an argument. And I guess in my mind, my thought is either you're lying or one of you is very disappointed and discouraged because you have taken it on the chin and never said anything, and that's the case in a lot of situations where a husband has, or a wife has been very demanding on certain things and the other one just kind of goes with the flow, and that's fine until it's not. It's and most of the time it's not at the beginning. It's just they get really good at going, you know what, I'm just going to let them have whatever they want. I'm going to do whatever they want. I'm just going to make them content and happy. And that's fine until it just builds up and builds up and builds up. And you've never been assertive and said, no, I need this. This is what I need in my relationship. And so arguing indicates that each of you are expressing some of the things that you're frustrated about. And that will create arguments sometimes, that will create discussion. We're not talking about fighting, knockdown, drag outs, throwing pans at each other. I'm not talking about that. But it is necessary to be able to disagree and to be able to think critically about the relationship and the things that you need in the relationship. So it's not that I want you guys fighting, but I want you guys discussing. And I want you guys, having those. And just because you have an argument doesn't mean the relationship's going downhill. There's times that, we argue with each other.
Can be a measure of health, actually. And a lot of these, once again, this list is about before you get married. And so it's okay. I wouldn't, it might be a red flag if you're arguing every single day or every week.
Sure.
That might be. The old video we used to watch at teenage years, the best time to get a divorce is before you get married. But, every once in a while, and certainly about things that matter, such as this list, it can be a very healthy thing. And, some of the healthiest relationships out there that you probably look at and go, well, they never argue about anything. They just seem to get along so well, is because they've hashed it out over this stuff. They've had the conversation, and prayed about it, certainly. And these are all things.
That first year of marriage, we go to track back to number 1. The first year of marriage is often hard because it's the time that you're arguing about things. Maybe, some people at least, because you're trying to figure those things out. You're trying to work out, what those new schedules look like and what it's like to live with somebody else and the different habits that get on your nerves. And so there's going to be times where you have some arguments on that, but that's the time you're also going to grow in your relationship if you allow yourself to, and you work out some of those. So, 8 really important things that if you're getting married, and I'm wishing my daughter and her fiance at the moment, Jay, the best of luck and the best of well wishes for their future. And if you've got family members that are getting married in the near future, maybe you can share this with them and encourage them a little bit in the things that they can do as they prepare for that day.
Big news from Heritage Christian University. Colin Ray is coming to the 2026 Heritage event. Join us Saturday, August 22nd at the beautiful Renaissance Shoals Conference Center for an unforgettable evening with one of country music's most recognizable voices. Sing along to classic hits like Love Me and That's My Story from the 10-time Male Vocalist of the Year nominee with 16 number 1 hits. General admission tickets are just $75, and table sponsorships are available now. Don't miss this incredible night supporting Heritage Christian University. Get your tickets today at hcu.edu. That's hcu.edu. All right, Ben, we're going to get in the old memory box, time travel, see if you can pull this one out. So I'll give you either or, you can do both. You and Kenya, first date, what'd y'all do? Or if it's a little more vivid memory, how'd you pop the question, man?
So both of those things I can actually tell you. So the first one was, of course, we were dating, kind of started dating or talking to each other in one of our classes at Freed Hardeman. And so I kind of was a little sneaky, and I really didn't really intend to forget my pencil every day, but it kind of got convenient, gave me an excuse to talk to her. So eventually I asked her out after asking her for a pencil a couple of maybe weeks in a row or whatever. We went here in Florence. We went out to eat, and I believe, and apologize if I get this wrong because it's not there anymore. Stillwater Steakhouse, I believe, is the name of it.
Yeah.
And we went there for our first date. And then we went to the bowling alley and never got to bowl because it was so many people there, but we sat and talked to each other. And then I know at least most of the time, but I think that first night her mom had some homemade ice cream made when I got back. I was hooked at that point. And they were,
Build the deal.
she would do that all the time.
Question right there,
And then I popped the question. Ours was, it was not TikTok, famous worthy back then. It wasn't, 1,000 people there taking pictures of us. We walked to a park bench in the middle of TVA property. We went on a hike basically, and I was a little more dressy than she was, and she was confused about that. But I had my Bible with it. I said, let's, we're going to go down here and have a Bible study. And so we walked down there, and I had the ring tied in the Bible. And so I kind of opened it, I think, to Ephesians 5 and read that, and then popped the question right there, just the two of us in the middle of the woods. And we've walked out to that bench a couple of times since. It's kind of in the TVA reservoir there. And, we were down, I was real close to that last night, bow fishing. So I was thinking about that last night.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, Whitney and I's first date, actually 20 years ago, late last week sometime. And funny enough, I'm not a big Mexican food guy, but in Albertville, there's a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
And as youth ministry, the joke is you eat a lot of pizza, but I've eaten a lot of Mexican food in connection to ministry. And so Whitney and I went there, and then we went to see Superman. I think it's Superman Returns. That's how, yeah. And me, I'm also not a Superman fan. So it was all about Whitney going with me, right? At that point, I was like, we'll go we'll go see what a movie, eat wherever you want to eat, whatever. Let's go. So that was the first date there. And then, so I was at Camp Naoti on St. Patrick's Day. At Camp Naoti, and we went down to the pier. It's on Lake Gunnersville, for those of you that may not know. And I barely could keep all that a secret. Like, I did just a good job keeping that a secret, much less like today where you've got the photographer and the other stuff. And so we're basically at the youth rally that we used to host at Naoti.
Right.
we were in our camp youth ministry retreat clothes, and down on the pier down there, and I went down to one knee and almost fell in Lake Gunnersville. So,
and would you look at us? These two couples are still married even after, just real simple proposals, and at least on my part, fairly inexpensive wedding rings, engagement rings.
Yes.
And so, and we're still making it work. So, it doesn't take all that. But I was kind of excited that Destin and Jay's proposal was kind of simple like that. They were on their way.
Yeah. I mean, these kids, and I used to warn, when I was in education, I'd warn those guys. I'm like, if you ride out on an elephant to ask this girl to spring formal and somebody videos that, and that's not who you end up marrying. Like, you're actually asking somebody to marry you and be with you the rest of your life. You're going to have to, I don't know what you're going to have to do. You got to do better than that. And you're just setting yourself up for failure. But
I did not climb to the top of the Empire State Building to ask Kenya to marry me. She probably would have climbed to the top of Empire State Building, just knowing her. She's a daredevil. I would have been like, I'll ask you from the ground if you want to climb up there. So that's recently been the thing.
Thank God for low maintenance. I don't know if, they're low maintenance, but they have great expectations either. And, Whitney was
clearly, exactly.
Whitney was just as happy. So I knew, hey, I'd made a good decision,
No doubt. No doubt.
Well, Ben, I appreciate you giving us some time. Man, I'm looking forward to it. Maybe one of us might get through it this weekend without tears. I'm going to do my best to be there for you, just in case you need to
I may have to go
off the bench. Bring a copy of those notes, brother.
If I can't finish, we'll be tag teaming. You're just going to have to come up there and handle it. So
Poor Destin. No, if I can do anything for you, I'm certainly praying for a great event and celebration. And what better way to celebrate that than the next day starting Vacation Bible School?
Yeah. It's going to be great, and then get to the end of it, and we got a men's trip heading to Colorado, so that's going to be fun. So maybe I'll need Colorado to cleanse the palate a little bit. So
I hope it all goes well. Love you, man. Have a great week.
Love you too.
Here's your weekly Adventures Toolkit, where we explore various toys, books, and techniques used by children's counselors that you can also use at home to connect with your kids and help them navigate all those big emotions and daily struggles. In honor of a FIFA World Cup that is taking place right now and everybody's talking about, we're going to talk a little bit about these guys. I have several of them in my office, even have a pretty big one here. And these are affectionately called thumb balls. And they're different topics that as you toss them around, wherever your thumb lands is what you read. And so this one here that is red is specifically for stopping bullying. This one here is to stop the drama. And this one is on anger management. I have a bigger one that's right here, and this one is on self-esteem. And so as it's tossed around and your thumb lands on a certain square, say 3 times, my brain is like a muscle. It keeps growing. The next one says, name 2 people with self-confidence, somebody that you know. And so it gets you talking about some different things. 4 things I like to do on my own are. That's one of them. This one says, a time I was bullied, I felt. So kind of gets them talking a little bit about the way that does to them and the way it makes them feel. This one says it's tough to control anger sometimes. Maybe talk about why that's a tough thing. A time I handled my anger well was. And then, of course, on the drama one, nobody knows about that has kids. What does it mean to think before you send? Talking about text messages. What does it mean to be an intervener? And so there's different things that you can do with these. A lot of times in my classes, I just let them toss them back and forth. And as the kid catches them, they read it. It allows them to kind of get active and do some things. But these are some good little tools, and I hope that's helpful to you.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.